as a company, what we've done at Coca-Cola Beverages Africa is to not take sustainability as a function that someone wakes up and does every day. We've put it into our mission. So if you go to our website and see our mission and vision, it's about refreshing Africa, which is what many people see, but it's also making the continent a better place. Now, how we make it better is embedded in our sustainability initiatives. Mm-hmm. So if you then take from design, how we're designing our products, our packaging, our plastic packaging, we're trying to use less, which is lightweighting and getting away what must not be there, like the plastic sleeves. We are also going towards what is more favorable to recycle, like clear bottles. You remember last year, for example, we went to a clear bottle in Sprite. We call it let's be clear, So from a design point of view, collaboration, probably can talk about this later at Petco, which became PackPro, but also enabling collection. So that journey of World Without Waste is on track.
Right.
Not just at a company level, but also bringing like-minded people, and in the way we can emanating information.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And I like what you just said about bringing together like-minded people. So these are industry players who are not playing alone, and we are going to be hearing that again from Janet. Janet from Geocycle. And Geocycle is working across different waste streams and doing really big things in terms of harnessing the energies and synergies across industries, food waste, construction waste, and she'll be telling us a lot more. Could you just tell us a little bit about this great initiative of Geocycle?
Thank you, Eve. Good evening and good afternoon. So I see here gender balance, and actually I'm very happy to say that 70% of our aggregators are women. So I am representing the girl child. To go back, just to explain what Geocycle is, because not so many people understand what Geocycle is. So Geocycle is a waste management company, but we don't work alone. We work with Bamburi Cement. So I'm here in the capacity of Bamburi Cement, so representing Bamburi Cement. And what we do is actually working in terms of collecting waste and turning it, recovering the resources from it, natural resources from it, and also substituting the fossil fuel. So we work in a different sector, that is the industrial waste, we have agricultural waste, we also work with municipal waste. So it's a diverse, and to just give you a perspective, we do close to like 20,000 tons a year of biomass. So we'll be speaking more about that. Our process is called co-processing. So co-processing is different from incineration. So when you think about it, so co-processing in terms of the temperatures that are there in the kilns and how the whole process, if you look at the waste hierarchy, you find that now after the 3 R's, you have the co-processing, which now does the recovery of the waste and even the energy from it.
Right. Thank you very much. And now we move on to Bonnie of the Waste Center. Waste Center, Bonnie, you work with very hazardous waste, as it were. So tell us a little bit about your business model.
Thank you. My name is Bonnie Mbithi, CEO of the Waste Center. So basically what we do is that we provide a safe resting place for electronic waste. So all your dead electronics, from computers to household ICT equipment to office equipment, of course, they are hazardous. So as we deal with e-waste, we are not only solving an environmental problem, but also a health problem. Because if these things are thrown carelessly into the landfills or wherever they will end up in the environment, they pose a lot of illnesses to all of us. So in our business model is to ensure that anything that we receive that is electronic waste, we have to take a circular model, to either refurbish, repair, extend the lifespan, remanufacture. So we go through all those different steps just to make sure that anything that we're receiving is handled properly. But of course, the biggest challenge I would say is that we don't have capacity in Africa to treat some of this waste. So for us, and we've been doing this for the last 10 years, we have to, so you can imagine how long that process will take. And by 2025, when we have the Basel Convention, which regulates the movement of waste, we are going to revisit the issue of the Basel Convention, which will even make it even more complicated to transport e-waste. So even the EU countries right now have a time frame on how to improve on the movement of electronic waste and other hazardous waste. So it's a big challenge, but I'm glad we're having such events to also create awareness. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bonnie. And you've just weaved us into the next conversation, which you're coming to. But before that, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, there's waste, sustainable waste management cuts across different areas, different streams. So whether you're interested in plastic, packaging, e-waste, organic waste, we have representation here. Of course, we've not even covered the full breadth of it, but I hope you're preparing your questions. I hope that our speakers are sort of eliciting interesting, conversations in your minds, and we want to really engage them to understand how this is happening in this region. So we'll move on now to Michael Loyello, and he's going to tell us about what Region Organics and the Synergy Collaborative is doing around waste management.
Asante sana. Habari zenu?
Missouri.
Yeah, so my name is Michael Loyello from Region Organics, formerly known as Synergy, but we are part of the Synergy Collaborative. So I'll explain the evolution in the naming in terms of why we are shifting names. Yeah, so we collect organic waste, as you mentioned, so we are in the organic waste stream, sort of. So we collect waste from hotels, including this one. We work with partners like Daniel from Taka Solutions to offtake his organic waste, from agribusinesses and agri-processing companies, people like the avocado sector. So in total, today we are collecting more than 200 tons of organic waste every day. Yeah? So that is about 70,000 tons per year, which makes us the largest in East and Central Africa. Yeah.
Wow.
So. And our factory is in Athi River, a place called Kinanie. So that's where all the waste from Nairobi goes. So 200 tons per day is roughly 10% of Nairobi. So last week we were actually in Kakamega. We were groundbreaking our new facility in Kakamega that is going to come online in the next 18 months. So we have the goal in the next 5 years to be collecting 1 million tons per year of waste. Yeah, and that's where we're going. So what we do with the waste is that we convert it into two main products. So the first one is insect-based protein. So we have things called black soldier flies that eat the waste. We then harvest the black soldier fly larvae, wash, dry, pasteurize, and then sell it as protein to animal feed manufacturers. Yeah. So for those who are in the animal feed manufacturing sector, you know that there's a scarcity of protein and a scarcity of group protein. So we are an ecological source of protein into the animal feed sector. Yeah. And then secondly, we produce organic fertilizer. So our organic fertilizer called Evergrow right now is sold across more than 40 counties in Kenya. More than 20,000 farmers are currently using our product, and they're seeing upwards of a 30% increase in yield. So we're actually helping our farmers to become more profitable and become more sustainable at the same time. So the reason behind the change of name from Synergy, which was a wordplay that was very much so in the waste management circular economy space, into Region Organics, is that we're actually looking at ourselves right now as people who are actually pushing the regenerative agriculture space. Yeah? So we're using circular economy to actually fuel our efforts into reviving and affecting food security. Yeah? So that's what we're doing right now, and it's good that these conversations keep on happening so that all people in the circular economy space can actually grow, because that's what I think the country needs.
And one of the interesting things is that all the our panelists on the stage are really collaborating. You notice the collaboration. There's a lot of collaboration going on in the waste space, waste management space, and that is as it should be. But of course, we also know there are certain challenges that the industries are facing as they are, setting the pace in terms of waste management, and we'll be hearing that from our panelists. But before we go to that, I'm going to ask about, green transition, zero waste. And I want to hear your opinions from what you're doing. You've pretty much described how your businesses, how you're setting the pace in terms of sustainable waste management. Is zero waste achievable? I'll start with David.
in the short to medium term, no. Because I think, let's first quickly look at the definition. You know, zero waste is a truly circular economy, which means nothing is wasted. And I think we need to face the reality that on this panel, the only kind of business model that's actually truly circular would be, you know, Region Organics. Even what we do most of the time is downcycling. So most plastic recycling, bottle-to-bottle recycling being a partial exception, is downcycling. Yes, you're reusing a product that's much better than discarding it directly, but eventually after multiple recycling cycles, it will eventually no longer be usable, right? Versus compost or a lot of organic products, you can actually, similar to glass, indefinitely recycle, right? So just if you look at this panel, which is already kind of trailblazers in the sector, only 1 out of 6 models is actually a really circular model. And therefore, the question is, you know, what does it take to A, scale those models that are circular, and B, make those models that are not circular to be more circular? And that's a very complex discussion, starting at product design, packaging design, you know, supply chain, collection, levies, legislation, EPR schemes, all those things, and a lot of different elements have to come together for us even to head into that direction. So yes, as maybe a 50 to 100 year plan, maybe. In the short to medium, no.
Okay, well, all right. Mavji, do you think so? Do you agree with David? Are we giving ourselves 100 years? What are those quick wins we could have? And what do we already have in place that could lead us there?
I definitely concur with Daniel. And it's a journey, and it's a collaborative journey. I think we all are taking baby steps, like the way Coca-Cola has, Mr. John has said. We have started the journey. We don't know how the journey is going to take, how long it's going to take, but eventually we have started. So there are a lot of innovations globally, locally, and we have a lot of members on the board here who are already in that transition, and we are all scaling up. But the magnitude of what we have done, I think we are just at the ice tip. So there is a lot to be done, and also to be able to convert it back or to be able to give the right solutions is going to take time. And through innovations, I think we'll be able to undo quite a bit, but it's going to be a lot of resources and time, definitely.
Okay. Let me jump to Bonnie. So as David and Mavji have mentioned, there's a lot that needs to be done. There's technical assistance required, there's financing solutions required. From your industry in the electronics and electrical waste, and looking at all the waste streams that you work around, what are some of those things that could facilitate businesses that are helping to manage waste?
Thank you. I think to start with, in as much as I agree it's a long journey, but I think there are certain steps we are making. I was just talking to few people that I know in the room, and saying that we've been in this journey for many years together. You know, we used to have such events and would find we are the same people, and we are talking about the same things, and we are not even having any new creativity in the room. Yeah. Yes. But when you look at it now, we have a lot of people who have joined the movement. People now understand why it is important for us to take care of the environment, issues of waste management, circularity. So I feel, in as much as it's a long journey, the steps are there. But innovation is key. We need to have innovative solutions to just try and innovate. And us, from the We Center, what we did, because we realized we cannot come up with all the innovation and all new ideas, we started the Circular Innovation Hub, which is an incubator that incubates startups and entrepreneurs that are only focused on circular economy and climate tech. Yeah? So that you have new ways of thinking. Because the moment we say, let's go to net zero, that everybody keeps on talking about net zero, we don't know when we'll ever get to net zero. Yeah? Everybody nowadays says their bottles are 100% recyclable, eco products. But when you look at it, it's not really 100% true. Mm-hmm. But with the few innovations that we are coming up with, and especially having homegrown African solutions that are also able to relate, because we have all these things in agriculture. There is the waste that is being generated. Like we have a startup that does, they're making shoes from pineapple waste. Yeah? Right. We would never have thought of making shoes from pineapple waste. Right. So I agree, innovation is what we need, collaborations, and of course, I don't want to say government, but of course we need government, yeah? We need the laws to be there, we need the extended producer responsibilities and people to take charge of whatever waste they're producing.
Well put. And let me just remind you, our audience, that tomorrow we'll be having a whole session on policies, you know, the policies that are in place and that need to be in place. So please don't miss that discussion. And on the third day, we'll also be looking at sustainability issues. So we're going to be tackling all of these elements. There'll be a whole panel discussion around financing options and solutions in this waste space, waste management space. Now, I have a question, and there's a prize. Who knows the theme for the World Environment Day this year? It was celebrated yesterday. Who knows the theme? Who knows the theme for the world? I know the usual suspects. Okay, what was the theme? Beat plastic pollution. There's a prize. See me after this. Okay, so let's clap for him. I mean, yeah. So the theme for World Environment Day was beat plastic pollutions. And so posing the question about zero waste, I want to narrow it down a little bit. John, Coca-Cola, you deal a lot with plastics. And the theme for World Environment Day was, and it still is, beat plastic pollution. Is it possible? And what are you doing as Coca-Cola in that regard to get us there?
So yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Is it tomorrow? No, when Daniel said 100 years, I was kind of hopeful. 50 to 100. I was hopeful I'll be alive on the 50 side, maybe to meet 75.
Yeah.
But let me say this: it is not something that will be done without collaboration. That's one thing. Two is, I tend to believe now we are at a point where there's so much damage that has been done in the past that as we correct what we are doing in the future, in the design and stuff, there must also be a lot of effort that is being done to undo, the waste that's already in the environment from the past. So, if I, and I'm not being optimistic, I'm being real, that it is possible to beat plastic pollution. Yeah. What are we doing about it as a company, as Coca-Cola Beverages Africa, is, so to speak, to design waste, to design it in a way that at the end of its cycle, it will be useful waste. And one thing is design. Okay? And design is, like I shared earlier, is, can we use less plastic? Let's begin there. Can we use less plastic? Because when we challenged people about the market, and people say, if it doesn't have the cap, people are going to say it's not safe. But who put the cap there? It's not the consumer. It is you, it's us, the manufacturer, who put it there in the first place and told people it will be safe when you drink it with the sleeve. Yeah. What if we go to the market and say, like we've done with our Dasani bottles, and say, if it clicks, it's safe. Okay, and then remove the sleeve. So start with the design, use less plastic, use good colors, don't restart this process with bad labels. Okay. Then the other one is support the middle stream, which is a collection. And I know it's oversaid, but we probably don't understand how much wealth is in the collection. Mm-hmm. Just every day, getting someone off the street or off another job that we're doing to collect waste and turn it into wealth. There's a lot of impact there. There's collection and there's economic impact. But then, very humbly so, we are leading in thought. We are thought leaders on this space. Because and I say this often, is being Coca-Cola Beverages Africa is not an honor. It's such a privilege that we have, and we don't take it lightly. So through sharing from countries that have gone ahead of us, economies that are advanced that we operate in, we become thought leaders on what can we do? Where is it we're going to go first? So in Petco, for example, seeding the thought, championing the model, copying from South Africa, and it's a matter of time. We will be early adopters of food grade PET in our process. Mm-hmm. So that will make circular not just a word we talk about, but it's something that you can go and have a proof point. You can come to Coca-Cola and say, you know what, I went and I saw what they're doing and they're promoting circularity.
Thank you. And John has raised something. They are thought leaders. They are leading, but in terms of showcasing what can be done. And there's another word that's coming out very powerfully here, and that's about the collaborative effort, because it will take us all to get to shorten that time from 100 years, David, to far less. We are getting there, one step at a time. Now, let me just remind you, we'll be quickly shifting to a panel, an open session. Please prepare your questions for our panelists. But we want to hear the views from Janet again. You're doing a lot, and you are committed to zero waste. So again, and you're really game-changing in this area, transforming industry waste. Is it achievable?
Thank you, Eve. I want to jog people's mind. That is before the ban of the plastic bags. Nobody ever thought that there'll be anything else other than the plastic bags. Right now, we don't have the plastic bags, and we are okay. We've come up with solutions, and it's working. So going back to having a zero waste future, yes, I think it's possible. The question is when, okay? And when you think about the waste, there's so many things that are involved in terms of the coming up of the waste. We need to change our behaviors. We need to change our buying and consuming behaviors. That way, we will be able to know now. Looking at something, we'll not look at it as waste, other than we'll look at it as a resource. So when we change our mindset, then we change the whole narrative of looking at waste. Now, coming back to like Bamburi, to give you a perspective of how we are dealing with waste. In our process, we don't have waste. So once we get the waste, whatever waste we get, when we are disposing it, it becomes part and parcel of the raw material. So the end product is as it is. So we don't have ash, we don't have fly ash, we don't have all those things. So we are taking care of everything. And this brings us back to the construction and demolition waste, which is a big thing. Of course, when you look at the construction, like 80% of it is like concrete. So what happens to concrete and demolition waste? Do we have a policy in that? What happens when a building collapses? And we see that a lot in Nairobi. What happens to that? We have to have a way of implementing how we are going to take that waste and putting it back in the cycle. So, like when we put back the concrete waste that is already there, and we put them back in the system, now that is circular economy. That is circularity. Now, talking about the reduction of waste, when you're doing big buildings, what happens, and I wish the lady who was talking about the green building was here, because that is also another aspect that needs to be looked at, yeah? Instead of buying 1,000 bags of cement, why don't you go the bulk way? Because there's bulk cement, and thereby you reduce the cement bags. So that way, when you change the mindset, then you change how you look at waste and how you generate waste. So yes, we'll have a future zero waste.
The future, and the responsibility lies with us all. It's about behavior change, mindsets. So zero waste is achievable. Lastly, I'm going to ask Michael. You talked about organic waste. And ladies and gentlemen, organic waste is the largest contributor, the largest portion of waste anywhere. Is it 80% and above in most economies, isn't it?
Yes, they say roughly 80%.
Roughly 80%. But on the other hand, I think Michael articulated very well the opportunities in transforming organic waste into fertilizer and many other things. So indeed, Taka ni mali, isn't it? Waste is wealth. But now we want to know, from an organic waste perspective, how possible is zero waste?
Yeah, I have to concur with my colleagues on the other, Daniel included, on the other side of the room. Zero waste is very difficult, yeah? But zero waste to landfill is possible. So those two are not the same.
Okay.
Yeah?
Right.
Yeah, so so recycling, reuse and recycling, I think is where we need to go.
Yeah.
And of course, tying that back into manufacturing so that we reduce how much plastics we're using or how much waste in general we're using.
Yeah.
and back to organic waste, how much waste we're generating, yeah?
Yeah.
By being more conservative. So, so I think zero waste to landfill is possible,
Right.
but zero waste is...
So we are getting very
Yeah.
many perspectives here,
Yeah.
and that is the reality. You know, we don't have to aim for zero waste if we can. There are several steps in between. Of course, the ambition is to get to zero waste. Zero waste landfill is possible using new technologies and new ecosystem models to transform that waste in the landfills so that we start managing our waste every day. And also, as you're saying, there are many things, and I think we've had it across the board, that there are many things that are being realized. Recycling of plastics, recycling, repurposing, reusing, refusing, and all of those elements. So there's a lot that needs to be done. This conversation is very interesting, and now I want to open it up to the audience. Let's have some questions. Will someone help me with the mic? Yes. Let's start. His hand was up first. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Let me just give some guidance in terms of how we'll ask the questions. So please introduce yourself, your name, and your organization, and just take 1 minute to ask your question so that we give as many people an opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you very much. My name is Ignatius Mugabo. I'm from Rwanda. I work for a company called Mugob's International, which works in partnership with Jardine Meuble to recycle plastics. The first is an appreciation already. I just want to appreciate Mary and the EBC for bringing all this together. I was telling Mary earlier that the word Taka Nimari keeps coming into my mind. Even when I sleep, I think one side will sleep, another one will be singing that. So thank you very much for putting all this together. The other one is just an encouragement, and then I'll end with a question. The encouragement is that earlier I had people talking about workable cities and all that, and I want to say that it's possible because where I come from, in Kigali, it's been done. And I encourage you all to come and learn from there. Then I end with a question. The gentleman there from Coca-Cola asked a question, can we use less plastic? And the question that always comes to my mind is the problem plastic or plastic ending up in landfill? So I put that question back to you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for being succinct. Is the problem plastic or is it where the plastic ends? We'll move around the room. Yes, sir.
Okay, my name is Andrew Lam. From South Sudan. I run a company called EcoFriends. EcoFriends is a waste management company. We are still at the basic level, but my question is to from Coca-Cola, because Coca-Cola is operating everywhere in Africa and even in South Sudan. But I really need you to clarify it for us. This term collaboration, every time people meet, you continue to talk of collaboration, but which way are we really going to collaborate? Are you coming to say to these waste management companies, collect plastics and go and recycle it, or you are coming down to recycle it for yourself? Because we really need to have a very clear point of that. Second, another question is going to my friend from a plastics, Kenya Plastics, something of that kind. I really need to know, how do you handle these two types of plastics? We have hard plastics and we have light plastics. And from what I saw outside there, it's so impressive. But what I really need to understand is that what are the end product of these two types of plastic? What are we seeing at the end of recycling this? Because it's not just a matter of we recycle, but does it goes to the market? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. There's a hand at the back. We'll have all the questions answered. Back, yes, at the back.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm called Joseph Wanyonyi from WEB. We work with women and young people, mashinani. First of all, asante sana for the panelists. But my first question is this. Is plastic waste? Kwa sababu, if you get down there, the plastic is being used as utensils in some of the houses. At what moment do you define plastic as waste? Number two, get back to schools. We are seated here, all of us, talking about how to recycle, but the young ones from the ages of 8 to 15 years, they know nothing about how to protect their environment and how to use the same plastics. You have been packing some food for them back in school. Can we begin from down there? Let the young ones know that, yes, I know this is a plastic. What is the other way that I can actually use it to benefit me today and tomorrow? For example, there was a moment in time when Waste is Wealth was being performed, be it in the drama festivals or music festivals in the Ministry of Education, in our curriculum. But nowadays they're not there. Then after that, how does Coca-Cola come in to go and enhance that into the brains of the young ones so that when they leave going to Kangemi or leave going somewhere else or Kibra, they know very well what I'm passing through. I'm not supposed to be throwing this here. I'm supposed to take it somewhere else. Okay. That's all I have for today.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, so we'll move here. Any ladies in the room who want to ask questions? Okay, we'll come to you. The others too.
Good afternoon.
Yes.
I'm Frederick from Sphinx Pharmaceuticals. I have a question to Coca-Cola.
I think we all drink Coke, so we'll all answer those questions.
So, you've talked about trying to reduce the usage of plastics from your company. We know that Coca-Cola is a big company and you supply a lot of products in Africa. And if I remember when I was young, you had initiatives when you were using glass bottles where if you purchased a Coca-Cola from a shop, you will be advised to take it back, then you are paid. So my question goes, what model do you have, or do you have a model of tracking your plastic bottles that you are able to know all the areas that your bottles reach and how to track them back, whether to a company that recycles or back to your company for further reprocessing?
Thank you very much. Let's pass it on to the two ladies here.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
My name is Sandra. I'm a blogger. My question was to Coca-Cola, but the gentleman has already asked. Because I'm really sorry, but you know, like for a company that produces over 100 billion plastics, I mean, you are responsible for a big part of the problem. So I think that's why everybody's just seeing you. And the fact that you're seated right in the middle, I'm so sorry. But yeah, there's a time Coca-Cola was accused of greenwashing. And I think it's because, you know, sometimes if you are part of the problem, then convincing people that you're part of the solution is still, because I'm sitting here, but I'm still not convinced. So I really need to know, like, what exactly is Coca-Cola doing? You know, like for 100 billion plastics that we are providing or that we are putting out in the world, we are recycling this number, or we are trying to reduce the usage of plastic by this. Like, can you just please give us numbers? Thank you.
Okay. All right. Pass it on. We'll have two more, and then, you know, oh, there's this side too. Okay, okay.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. We've been talking about these nice things to look at. Waste sometimes is not all nice. The other day I was so happy to read that some people are turning human waste. You know what I mean by human waste?
Yes.
Into briquettes. And I think that was very encouraging. But I want to ask, is there anybody doing something? And I'm asking this as a woman and as a mother and as a grandmother. Is there anybody doing anything with the sanitary pads?
Sanitary. Good question.
And towels.
Thank you. Thank you.
Again, I'm asking, is there anybody doing anything with the diapers? You know what we use for our children?
Yeah.
Pampers. Is there anybody doing anything? Because let me tell you, in the villages, it is terrible. It is terrible.
Yes, it's a new plastic.
I leave
Thank
it
you
at
very
that.
much. Thank you so much. Mr. John, let's go.
Mine is not a question. It's just to compliment the excellent panelists. Generally, I was looking at, say, based on the question raised, can we get zero waste? Can we achieve it? I think it is achievable. It is achievable in the sense when COVID struck this, the world, people started putting on masks. The World Bank had predicted people are going to die like this. So when I was looking at the policy regulation, do we have standard operating procedure for waste management? The soaps, the way we had the soaps for COVID. If we have that, then that zero waste agenda will be achieved. Thank you.
We just need the urgency, right? Okay, wow. Okay, we'll take two more and then give the panelists a chance to respond.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm Zablon Ogola from Plugin Kenya. So my question is to the panelists, and that this first of contact, those are the waste pickers. And for quite a long time within the chain, they've been forgotten in terms of improving their lives, in terms of improving their health. And amongst all of you who are here as a panelist in terms of business, these are the guys which connect the waste to your companies. I really want to know, what are you guys doing to ensure that the life of these people is a little bit lifted up in terms of their health, in terms of doing away with child labor, because that's the end thing when it comes to issues of waste. And those are the challenges which we're grappling with. Then I'll take it back to my friend from Coca-Cola. You've challenged us a little bit to take less or to consume less. Can Coca-Cola also try and produce less?
Okay. Last question, and then we'll give our panelists a chance. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. Mine, I think it's not a matter of question. My name is Victor Biemela, and I'm actually from the Coca-Cola Beverage Africa, Tanzania.
You should come.
Specifically, yes, and because of the questions, there have been, yes, but I just want at least to share the experience in Tanzania specifically. The matter regarding recycling. For instance, in the Coca-Cola Beverage Africa, Tanzania, we have partnered with a certain recycler, the Sunda Chemical Fiber. And let me assure you, based on the numbers, specific numbers that we have actually managed, we have managed to recycle even beyond the number of the plastic that we produce. And what I'm trying to say is when we are trying to discuss about beating the plastics, it has to be a collective effort. For instance, as Coca-Cola Beverage Africa Tanzania, specifically, we are working with only one recycler. And we have managed, what we produce, we have managed to recycle even beyond 100%. Imagine other players within the industry, if they could decide to do so. We could actually beat it up. But, because I think sometimes it's just a matter of business, competitiveness, sometimes that's why there is a matter of stories. But in fact, the Coca-Cola itself, we have actually committed that at the year 2025, at least 100% of our, 100% of our packaging can actually be recyclable. So you can imagine having that confidence to say that we can do so. That's why Mr. Even John have said that we have actually decided our Sprite from going to the other transparent, the way how it looked like. That's a commitment. Right. And we are trying to do so. And in experience of Tanzania, as I've said now, we have a confidence even to prove that we have actually recycled 100% of that. So what I'm encouraging is that I think other players within the industry, if we could, all of us, have the definition of what we call zero waste, I think that's where we can actually solve. Because now even the definition of zero waste to other players is not actually well defined. Because that's why there's a main definition and we don't have a common stand regarding zero waste. But with the confidence, we can manage. And in plastics, we can manage to do so.
Thank you so much. A lot of questions have been asked, and we want to gauge to see how much more we can take. But let's give the panelists a chance. Half your questions have been answered, John. Coca-Cola. And, so let's respond to the questions. Mavje, if you could respond to the question about what is, at what point is plastic waste? And then we'll invite John, and Daniel has a mic too. We'll answer all these questions. So, Mavje, yes.
The time when we say plastic is waste is when we see that its purpose is diminished, or the packaging is in a state where it can't be reused. And I think it also falls back to the innovation of doing the right designs so that we can be able to reuse the plastic continuously. Until it's broken, you have a container of a plastic basin, it's broken, and that's the time it doesn't serve a purpose, and that's the time it becomes a waste. So that's what I feel.
Okay, thank you so much. John?
There's a Kenyan saying, which people say, tukutane nyuma ya tent. When all the questions were coming, I thought we should just say, let's meet behind the tent. But very, very exciting questions, and I take the questions to be, significance of interest.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because we know that when people go to the market, they probably look at the significant brands. Okay, but I want to answer the questions in general. And thank you so much, my colleague from TZ has answered lots of them. We have partnered in Kenya, for example, with Petco, which is now Petco. What is a partnership about? It's about ensuring that the plastic that is post-consumer is collected. The process of collecting and linking that plastic waste to recyclers is auditable. Okay? And because everyone has, so to speak, their skin in the game, I'm going to speak about Coca-Cola's skin in the game since 2018, is we've been consistently claiming over 100% in Kenya of the plastic that we put in the market. Okay? So we say that it costs this much to claim plastic from the environment. We claim over 100%. Now, let me say this so it is also very clear. That's not a point of pride. Absolutely not. Because our point of pride will be when there's no waste in the environment. Okay? So when I walk around and see waste in the environment, I don't sit back and say, you know what, we did 100%. No. Okay? Now, on Sunday, and I was kind of pissed off because on Sunday I was driving on Gong Road, and this driver, I hope it was not AI, finishes his bottle of whatever drink he was drinking and threw it through the window. I didn't know what the brand was. But for me, at that particular point, is I wish the person didn't buy the product, because the damage to the environment surpasses the gain, whatever cost to the company, in terms of profit. So there's that part of partnership, and this is my brother from Sudan. That's one what I want to answer. The other one is if you go to Uganda, for example, we are doing collection for ourselves, because we say where there's no mechanism to ensure we're collecting 100%, we'll do it ourselves. So Uganda, we've got like a recycler, doing that, collecting over 85% of the waste for us, processing it and exporting it. So this whole journey of recycling and sustainable world without waste is for sure not just on a paper. Our skin is in the game.
Right.
Okay, we're investing in it, and it's investing in it both money, thought, and anything you think that can go into it. But let me speak to, if you allow me, there's the back to schools. I think that person will need to read the same books, because our win will not be whether we are collecting or not. Our win will be whether we are changing behavior. Okay, behavior at the individual level. So if we have the best collection mechanism, best recycling mechanism, and we don't change behavior, then we still have world with waste.
Yeah.
Okay? But if we're able to have change of behavior, not have that one random guy throwing out on the road, doing collection, segregation. That's where the win is going to be. So I agree with you 100% about going back to school. And I remember, I don't want to say long time ago, so that you don't guess when I was in school, but long time ago, clubs in schools were mandatory. And what were they teaching you? Planting trees, they were teaching you how to wash clothes, home science, things that are very relevant today.
Okay.
There was a question on glass and plastic, and I think it would be injustice if I don't answer.
Answer, please.
And the way to look at it is, how did we end up where we are today with plastic? It's because of us sitting here. Consumer trends. Consumers go towards convenience. Consumers go towards, microwave. We want it here now. I want to sort of get it quick. So the plastic you see is meeting a need. Okay, it's meeting a need. What it should not do is create another problem. Okay, and that's why we're talking about circularity.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I think you've tried. We can't exhaust that topic. As he said, we can meet behind the tent for more detailed discussion. But I think I want to challenge the audience. We are preoccupied with plastics, and it's a real problem. But e-waste is the next plastic, isn't it? If you're not asking the same questions yet about e-waste. And I just wanted to give Bonnie 1 minute to tell us, especially about awareness. And all of these questions that have been asked, they correlate. What are we doing about it? Are consumers aware? Do we know what solutions there are? We are all stuck with cords in our houses. Both you and I. What needs to be done?
Thank you. I think, like my colleagues have said, there's an aspect of mindset change, behavior change that needs to be done. And it's not just, we should not be worried so much. It's not just a Kenyan thing or South Sudan. These are global problems we're struggling with. And whenever we go to the COP, these are things that have been discussed. The only thing is that we need to now wake up and act, not just to have amazing conferences and ideas and then we leave them at that. We look at how can people collaborate better. When you look at e-waste, is the fastest growing stream of waste, but a lot of people don't know. A lot of people just enjoy using the devices and the gadgets. And if you ask majority of the people in the room how many mobile phones they have owned since they have started owning a mobile phone, some don't even know the number. If you ask them where they went when they reached the end of their life, they have no idea. So it is something that requires a lot of awareness. We as We Center have tried to constantly create that awareness by having trainings. We really pushed for our curriculum to even have the environment aspect of it, so that even from the young level, because converting when people are older is also a bit of a challenge. But if we have collaborations where we are creating awareness, if you look at the issue that Mama raised about the sanitary, it's one of the most complex ways to handle, you know. But why not look for alternative material to have the sanitary towels?
Exactly.
We have innovators who are making sustainable sanitary towels. Why not embrace such kind of solutions? So I think when we have these discussions, it's a matter of seeing where the gaps are, where the opportunities, how people can collaborate. This panel, at least we have been trying to work together in one or another, you know. So if we have all those collaborations, I think that's the right way to go. And whenever we have the big conferences, we have to also put our governments accountable to make sure that we have the proper guidelines. For us, the e-waste that comes to We Center, it's only brought by those people who, I would say, probably love the environment or are conscious about climate change, but nobody pushes them to bring. But if we had proper guidelines and laws that, because it's either carrot or stick. If carrot is not attractive, use stick and know that you're supposed to take care of your waste. I think that's the way to proceed. I know you're running short of time, so
thank you so much. And I know there's so many questions in the audience, but we have another exciting session after this. So we don't want to eat into that. I'm just going to give our three panelists who haven't responded to give their final words, and then we close this session.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, just to quickly run through the questions that I may be able to help answering. So to the waste picker questions, great question, because I think globally waste pickers are the biggest recovery agents of waste in most developing countries, and I think generally people don't speak about them enough. So it's great that you raised the question. However, from my point of view, we actually should ideally, from a value chain perspective, not take waste first to dump site and then kind of sort it out under terrible circumstances, right? Ideally, and that's part of the new bill of the Kenyan government, waste should go to sorting sites or material recovery facilities, and then you can recover it under much better conditions. So that's where we should be heading to in the kind of medium term. In the short term, it is what it is. So to your question, so what we do, we work with a lot of waste pickers. You know, we give protective equipment, we do health checkups, we've built a couple of kindergartens for waste picker mothers, so there's things we are doing, but let's also be real, a dump site is still a dump site, so ideally, you know, we go to a place where there is no waste picking. To sanitary pads and diapers, I think the honest answer is no. No one anywhere in the world is doing really anything about it. There are a couple of high-tech technologies in Europe, but they're way too expensive. So the price of, there's something called hydrolysis and other things, you can actually recycle diapers, but it's so economically inefficient that no one does it. So in short, no, there's no solution anywhere on the horizon. So the best thing we can do, echoing what Bonnie said, and for example, what I do at home with my child, I clean a lot of, you know, diapers for reuse. Then to the question on the plastics, I think on hard and soft plastics. So generally, it's easier to recycle hard plastics. Why? Because they have the weight to volume ratio is more favorable, meaning the plastic is heavier and there's less surface area on hard plastics, so they're easier to clean, less contamination, easier to dry, easier to pelletize. Soft, flexible packaging globally is much harder to recycle. So for example, in Kenya, flexible packaging recycling rates are at about 1%. So that is generally a bigger problem. But once you actually pelletize or make a finished product of them, both of them tend to have markets. So the problem is less the end market, it's more the washing and recycling costs of one material versus the other. And then two last points on is the problem the plastic or the end destination? And the answer is both. I would especially say plastic is not the problem. Single-use plastic is the problem. Plastic is an amazing product on multi-reuse and is actually environmentally much better than glass or any other product. Full stop. There's no need to argue about it. But the problem is single-use plastic. And then in terms of end destinations, that is a big problem, because if you get plastic into a location that you can sort it efficiently, it's much easier to subsequently get it to a reuse or recycle application, versus if it ends up in a dump site and is contaminated, then that same process is much harder, much more cost inefficient, and also kind of the human cost of sorting that waste in a dump site is harder. So it's both the end destination and the design of the plastic, and especially is it a single use or not. And then lastly, as a slightly mean jab to the person to my left, or generally on the conversation on, you know, glass bottles, I think there is a lot of studies globally that whenever there is a reuse system, and often that doesn't have to be glass, it can also be multi-use plastics, then reuse systems tend to have much higher recycling and environmental benefits than any single-use system. And obviously, but at the same time, to defend you, you know, that only works if everyone in the market has to do it, because reuse is more expensive, right? So you cannot ask one company to be the reuse player and no one else is the reuse player, because that one player will lose out. But if it's mandated for everyone, those are proven to be the most environmentally efficient collection and recycling system.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for all those thoughts. Final word, 1 minute for Janet, 1 minute for Michael, please.
Thank you, Yvette. I think they've said it so very well, but the key message here is sensitization. So once people understand why we have the plastics, how you can use the plastics, how you can go down to the children and showcase to them how they can be able to dispose the plastic well, then that will be good.
Thank you. Michael?
Yeah, very well put, and Daniel, very, very informative. So on to Mama's question around diapers, I've actually been thinking about it and no idea. Maybe biodegradable diapers, I have no idea. Like, that's something that...
I can send you some for testing in your plant.
Okay. Exactly. Yeah, so we'll have a look. Yeah, but definitely that's a challenge, and we'll take it away and really think about it. Yeah. So the challenge that we face as recyclers is the cost of raw material that comes from access to it. Yeah. So sorting segregation is a problem. If all of us could get clean waste streams, it will make our businesses much, much, much easier. Yeah? So from the government, anybody, ourselves, if we can segregate in our kitchens, basically push separation of waste as close to source as possible, and then transport those ones in single sources, single streams, that would be the biggest help that could be made to ourselves as entrepreneurs. But then that could be what fuels the zero waste to landfill conversation. So yeah, the more brains come behind that, and the new bill, waste management bill, if it pushes all of us to think about that, I think that will be good for all of us.
Thank you so much. And I think that's a good note to end this conversation. The more players we have, the more policies in place, the more collaboration across the board, the more solutions we'll have, isn't it? And the industry players are already leading in that direction. And who knows, in the 6th Africa Waste is Wealth Series conference, we'll probably have a solution for diapers. I'm that positive. Thank you so much. Let's give these guys, all the panelists, a round of applause. Thank you for your active participation, and please stick around for the next session on technology.
Let's appreciate Eve and her panelists one more time. You will agree with me that was quite an engaging session, and it takes us back to some of the conversations we had earlier today about our individual and collective roles in the spaces that we play. You know, Bonnie and I were just speaking about it now. You know, if I segregate the waste from my house, and I'm sure for most of us we have that one lorry that comes to pick, you know, the garbage on Saturday or once a week. So if I segregate it at home and then it all ends up in one lorry, how do I know that they're segregating it, you know, in the place where they eventually dump it? So I guess there's a lot more that we need to engage with other stakeholders who may or may not be in the room today. All right, so we are now ready for our next session, next and final session for this afternoon. And this will be moderated by Alfred Asiko from GSMA. Setting the pace for this panel discussion is Dr. Ehud Gashugu, Director, Ajira Digital. We also have a case study which will be done by Ecoloop, David Geshu, who's a digital strategist, Taka Namali. The panelists for this session also please prepare to come up on stage. Michael Koech, Environmental and Social Lead, Airtel Africa. Caroline Kiarie, Head Exploration, UNDP Kenya Accelerator Lab. Thomas McDowell, Country Manager Kenya FITS. And Valentine Cheruiyot, Environment Compliance and Sustainability at Safaricom. I'd like to welcome our moderator for this session. Let's give him a warm round of applause as he makes his way up on stage. I hope you're all energized for this session. I'm sure it's going to be an incredibly enriching one as well. Mr. Asiko, karibu sana.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Are we tired? Welcome to this session. This session is about the role of technology in waste management. And here we are going to have the cool people. These are the people of IoTs, blockchain, big data, and the rest of the technologies. And we want to see how that is going to apply when it comes to waste management. So please join me in welcoming the panelists this afternoon. I'll welcome up front Michael Koech. He's an Environmental and Social Lead, Airtel Africa. Please a round of applause for him as he comes up. We have Caroline Kiarie, who is the Head of Exploration at UNDP Kenya Accelerator Lab. Round of applause for him. Then we have Thomas McDowell, Country Manager for FITS. A round of applause for him. We have Owen Ombima. Owen Ombima is from Safaricom. Round of applause for him as he comes up. And I think that is it. Before we go to the panelists, we have an opening video by Akansha Sharma. Akansha Sharma is the head of digital utilities and climate tech at the GSMA. She was supposed to be with us here, but she'll join us virtually from London. The beauty of technology already right there. So DJ and the tech team kindly help us there. Then immediately after Akansha, we'll have the case study on Ecolube by David Ngeshu. As we wait for the tech team. As our tech team are looking for the video, I will invite Dr. Ehud to come up front to help with setting the pace for the session. Daktari Karibu, Dr. Ehud, welcome. Round of applause for him as he comes up.
So good evening, everyone. As I've been introduced, my name is Ehud Gachogo. I work with the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, and in the organization, I lead a practice area of youth employment, and there we tackle the youth agenda in a comprehensive way, but really our key focus currently is looking at how digital economy and of course blends with IT can create better and dignified opportunities for young people. So when I was invited for this conference, I definitely was not very sure whether I'm the right person, because we're talking about waste management, and what I do on an every single day really sort of looks at waste management in a very, very different perspective. But one of the things that really was exciting to me is to realize the great and importance of technology in everything that we are doing. As the saying goes, that this software is eating the world. What that means is that whatever we do in whichever space we are operating and the different intersections that we are playing some critical role, then technology becomes extremely important. The second reflection when I was invited to this conference was about the demographics that we are addressing today, whether from the entire waste management value chain, all the generations that are consumers of the products and the work that we are doing. The average and the median age of Kenyan is 19 years, meaning that we have a very youthful population, and in real sense, meaning that these are generally people who have very high capacity to integrate with technology. So their life is really modeled around tech and digital, and therefore, even as we talk and have in-depth conversations around the opportunities, the importance, and the value that the waste management ecosystem can bring in job creation, then the aspect and the question of demographic becomes extremely important. So therefore, I will spend the rest of the next 5 minutes to look at the intersection between the waste management, technology, and job creation. When I was actually informed about this conference, one of the first things I started to do was to go to all the different think tanks in this country to check whether there's anyone who have very good statistics on the contribution of waste management in job creation, or else the qualitative value of contribution of waste management ecosystem to the GDP. Whereas those statistics are missing, we do believe significantly when we embrace technology, then this information will become available, and this is where I think young people will largely thrive. So the digital economy, ICT, in Africa is really nascent, and I don't really want to go into the technicalities around waste management. I think the other panel delved into greater details about the size of the opportunity, what it means to us as a community. But allow me just to speak a little bit about what we see. With the evolution of digital economy, it means that all the various sectors in economy can actually benefit by adapting digital technologies and ICT. This is not new to us because in other sectors, this has been done very, very effectively, and time has come for us to start asking ourselves, what value then does it bring if we are able to adapt technology, and the technologies that are quite robust enough to really take into contextual needs of, for example, data and information that helps in designing new responsive solutions, that helps in shaping policy, that drives research and development in companies, that helps inspiring innovation and creating of small enterprises within local operators as well as at the ecosystem level. And that's how we see waste ecosystem contributing to the growth of the general economic environment, but also to jobs, especially for our young demographic. The other element I also wanted to mention is around the importance of management of value chains. And the conversations that was here before was largely around the fact that waste management is a really complex ecosystem with very many actors and players in there, and therefore then if we have smart technologies, if you have better ways of collaborating by use of technology and leveraging technology, we all draw value, and therefore before we talk about the contribution at the enterprise level, there are significant multiplier effects there around jobs. There are value chain efficiencies that we can draw by leveraging on technology, but more importantly is the fact that we will be able to bring in new innovations around data science, data analysis. We're talking about innovations on the specialized waste to energy solutions, packaging aspects, route management, so very many areas that we have an opportunity to do better. The last point I want to raise is around the collaboration, and this has been talked a lot. For us to be efficient, the way to collaborate better can be enhanced by us having a clear technology service layer that helps us to be able to bring value to every ecosystem players, from the private sector partners to government, research houses, to development actors, everyone who really is involved in the enterprise value chain. But more importantly, that has to come with a solution that is domiciled around education, a solution that is able to create enough an appetite for awareness creation, as well as skills development and training. So with that preamble, I do totally believe that this particular area of the economy can leverage on technology, can get better output in terms of GDP contribution, but more importantly, we see the value around data information that drives policy and job creation, particularly for our young people. With that, allow me to say a big thank you and welcome our team to expound on that brief exposition. Thank you, and over to you, Alfred.
Thank you, Dr. Ari. Thank you very much. Job creation, data management, logistics, and inventory management, some of the advantages that come with data or technology when it comes to waste management. Thank you so much for the insights and for setting the pace. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to invite the next speaker who will also help us to set the pace for the session. This is Akansha Sharma from the Global Association of Mobile Network Operators, and she'll join us virtually. Over to the tech team.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this afternoon's session on the role of technology in waste management. Apologies for not being able to join in person, but hoping that tech will make up for it. I'd like to start this session with the mention of Mahatma Gandhi, whom a lot of people here would know as a person who led India's freedom struggle. What's lesser known is that alongside fighting for the political freedom, he actually also prioritized sanitation and cleanliness drives in India. For a marketing person, that might sound like a terrible move. You're in for a strategic motive, which is getting the country independent, and here you're distracting the population from that exact motive and talking about waste. But it also goes to say about the value of waste management that he had in his mind and is in the minds of a lot of visionaries. Economic growth, development, keeping our children well fed and sharp, it should be a priority. But managing waste created by us humans, that bit can't wait either. Now, I won't get into the specifics of the problem itself. I'm sure in the morning there's been a lot of context setting already, and the group here is well aware of the issues that we are facing. I will focus on the solutions, for that matter, the mode of delivering those solutions, which from our side of the work is technology. In simple words, the one thing tech does well is getting things done quicker, more efficiently, and sometimes more intelligently. We found through the research that we've done and the work that we've done that, simple things like mobile applications or mobile payments, or more complicated stuff like big data, artificial intelligence, connecting devices, many such technologies can play a critical role in improving how you engage citizens into the waste management process. How do you drive operational efficiencies? How do you increase transparency in the value chains? So there's a lot that we can do with the tools that we already have at hand and are widely available to people, are being used by people in and across low and middle income countries as well. And when you think of waste, it's generally considered to be a public service. But it can also be viewed as a market system that has the potential to create value at each stage of the value chain, provide fair and decent employment to those who are engaged in the sector, to provide sustainable revenues, and at the same time, and most importantly now, provide climate and environmental benefits as well. At the GSMA Mobile for Development, we support direct partnerships between public and private sector. But equally, we also support business models to test the use of tech. In this case, for example, for waste management, both for inorganic and organic wastes, also fecal sludge management. On plastic side, just to give you examples, we funded solutions that are looking at aggregating and digitizing dry waste supply chains. We're funding Recircle in India, Regionize in South Africa, SoSoCare in Nigeria. SoSoCare are also incentivizing these solutions through micro health insurance. We've previously funded Koliba in Côte d'Ivoire. They collect, clean, and then convert plastic waste into pellets, which can then be, recycled, reused. In Freetown, Sierra Leone, we are working with Freetown Waste Transformers, and they're working with organic waste collection. They process it, collect it, process it, and produce energy, biogas, and fertilizers from that. We've also funded some business models on sanitation side. We've worked with multiple container-based sanitation models, including Luwat and Sanity, some of the names that you might have heard of. We've worked with municipalities such as KCCA in Uganda to help digitize the fecal sludge value chain. So you're basically giving the workers mobile applications where they can alert those areas that they are coming to pick the waste up from, the fecal sludge up from, inform when they've done it, just looking at the value chain, get paid via mobile channels. Lots of different things in which tech can be used. The solutions are aplenty. But the problem is that most of these are still in nascent stages. They're still waiting for a partnership to help them scale, for a multinational or an investor to notice and just notice the value that they're bringing to what might seem like day-to-day activities, but are absolutely instrumental and key to our functioning as human beings in the societies that we've built. And therefore, to close the talk, I'd like to leave the room with a few topics to talk about. For the tech companies here, for those who are working with the tech companies here, the call is to see beyond e-waste. Every time I go to a tech company and say, oh, what are you doing on waste? And they think e-waste. It's also the enablement effect that tech brings. That in itself is a very lucrative business model that's actually waiting to be tapped on. And the reputation, the networks that some of these big private sector players have, especially tech companies, mobile operators, it's a lot, and it can actually drive a lot of value in this sector. We just need to come in with the mindset to play the long game. It won't happen in 1 or 2 years. We just need to think through and think about the long-term gain that we can produce here. To the innovators, I think often ignored, but a very important aspect is to look at the impact that you can create, even if through small projects. Because when you approach a big company, you've got to showcase your business model. You've got to spark curiosity, and that happens through numbers. That happens through the research and monitoring and evaluations that you've done through the work that you've done through your however little small projects that you have. So that's the other thing to talk about. I believe there is a lot that can be done in the waste value chains. We just need to connect the dots. We just need to think in a more systemic way as opposed to standalone projects that we've been funding of late. We've got to think about it as a societal problem rather than a problem of a small community or a slum that we are trying to tackle. It's just that, and go in with the mind of commercial business models that we are going to fund to get them to scale. They might not be possible in the near term, but that's the goal that we need to work towards. I hope that gives you a lot of fodder to discuss in this session, and I can see the speakers are completely stellar. So I will try to tune in and listen to what you guys have to share, and I hope my talk here has been interesting enough to spark the discussion. Thank you for having me, everyone, and good luck with the session. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks to Akansha. Akansha is joining us online together with the GSMA team. The Mobile for Development team are with us online. We will also bring in a very short presentation, and this is all in the bid to set the pace and the background for this session, so we get the most out of it. David has the case study, EcoLoop, and I will welcome David up front for the brief presentation on EcoLoop, which is a digital platform for waste management, locally done and made here organically. Welcome, David. Round of applause for David as he comes on. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much, Alfred. So, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to once again invite you to this Africa Waste is Wealth session. And just before I start, there's a brief video that we, as Taka Nimali, has prepared. So to introduce myself, my name is David Ngechu. I'm in charge of the product and technology for Taka Nimali. And I will let the video first proceed before I can go on with my presentation. Okay, before the video plays, okay, been told it's good.
To show you that waste isn't just waste, it's an opportunity for economic. What if we told you that this waste could be turned into wealth? The Africa Waste is Wealth series is here to show you that waste isn't just waste, it's an opportunity for economic growth and environmental conservation. But currently, only around 11% is being recycled, mainly by the informal sector. To address this challenge, Taka, the East African Business Council, and the Alliance for Science is organizing the Africa Waste is Wealth series. The first conference, Africa's Waste is Wealth, promoting effective waste management practices for environmental conservation and climate change mitigation, will be held on June 6th to 8th, 2023 in Nairobi, Kenya. The consequences of not managing waste properly are dire, from environmental pollution to negative impacts on public health. But waste management isn't just about reducing negative impacts, it's also about promoting sustainable innovation and green jobs. Join us at the Africa Waste is Wealth conference to learn more about how we can turn waste into wealth and create a sustainable future for all.
Right. So that was just a brief introduction of what it is we're doing with this Africa Waste is Wealth conference. So a round of applause to the three organizing partners for bringing us all together for these next few days. Okay, so now I will ask if we can have the presentation on the screen. So just go back one slide. All right, so to give you a bit of context, in Africa, the rate of urbanization is growing at a much faster rate. So we can estimate about 0.65 kilograms per capita is generated. And in Nairobi alone, there's over 2,400 tons. This rate of growth is not proportional to the rate of how the local authorities are able to handle this waste. So there's a big mismatch in terms of how much waste is being generated versus how much waste is being recovered. So as we go to the next slide, it's really talking about the problem that we as Africa are experiencing, with more than 70%, with less than 70% of waste being collected and recycled in Africa. And this leads to adverse health effects on the public. So not just the environment, but the people living within this public. This is a study that has been done by UNEP. And really the tagline here is that there is an underdevelopment waste management value chain. So what we are doing as Taka is something different. We are bringing together all the players, and we are doing this under our new product called EcoLoop. So in the next slide, I will present to you the solution, where EcoLoop is an integrated waste regeneration ecosystem that leverages technology to track the movement of waste, its conversion, and to assess the impact on the environment. So using the slogan Taka Taka ni Mali, we are really converting waste into wealth. So now I would like to have another video just summarizing what it is we do at EcoLoop before we can proceed. So I will ask the team to please go ahead with this.
The world is facing a waste crisis. With increased urbanization and consumption patterns, waste generation is on the rise. Waste not only poses a threat to public health and the environment, but also hinders economic development. But what if we could turn waste into new value? Introducing EcoLoop, an integrated waste regeneration ecosystem that leverages technology to track waste movement, conversion, and assess impact on the environment. EcoLoop allows corporates to unlock brand value, increase visibility across the value chain, comply with environmental regulations, reduce their carbon footprint, and monitor and evaluate their environmental impact. EcoLoop sorts and processes waste into valuable resources such as plastics, metals, and glass. Customers can access information about waste management services, including waste collection schedules, recycling rates, and sustainability performance. They can also provide feedback and suggestions for improvement. EcoLoop's team is committed to building a culture of environmental stewardship among employees and the community around, contributing to the global development goals. Join us in our mission to convert waste into new value with EcoLoop. Together, we can make a difference for our planet and future generations.
Right, thank you very much. So if you could go back to the presentation again, I will take you through what it is we're doing with the solution as a whole. So we will start off with talking about who are the stakeholders. So in the next slide, I mentioned that we do have the SDG partners. And by SDG partners, we're talking about everyone who plays a role, not just the UN, but it's really each and every one of us, where we are trying to ensure that our communities, our organizations are able to achieve the sustainable development goals in as much capacity as we can. We also have development partners who are more, you could say, some call them international donors, some call them implementing partners, but it's really those who accelerate the rate of development in especially regions like our region where we are a third world country and we do need support to grow as much and as fast as we can. Then we also have corporates. So corporates who sell the products to the consumers, corporates who provide services and solutions to consumers who already have an established network and system that they can leverage on to ensure that this impact gets to as many people as possible. So now, in the next slide, I talk about EcoLoop, which is a digital platform. Well, it's not just a digital platform. It's a whole ecosystem that brings together all of these players. So we leverage technology by having a platform that, one, offers a dashboard to the organizing bodies and the supporting bodies to understand how much impact they have across the value chain. It also provides ERP capabilities, so which is enterprise resource planning, because waste is a resource. So they're able to plan how to reduce, how to measure, how to track, and what changes they need to do. And because there are different stakeholders across the value chain, we talk about our customers, who tend to be the businesses, the producers, the households, institutions who produce the waste. The aggregators who are in between would collect, sort, and segregate the material recovery facilities, who would recover this and recycle it and convert it into new wealth. We are also able to share this via social media so that you are able to showcase what it is you do as an organization. And organizations, right now, there's this big buzz going on called ESG, where you're able to talk about how your organization is practicing environmental, social, and governance policies. So in the next slide, I talk about how does this work for you. So for everyone in this room, it unlocks the value of the brand you have been building, you have established, you are trying to build. So you are able to equate that value with love for the brand, because we are really talking about sustainability and becoming green champions in this sector. It also helps you, enables you to comply and to monitor your environmental impact, where the landscape, the ecosystem is shifting, and you need to catch up with every new regulation that's coming in. So that's where we come in, because it's our role to keep up and ensure that you are up to date and are complying with all the new regulations and policies being set up. And lastly, it also enables public-private community collaborations, where it's not just about how it is the organization is working with the, well, within the, it's not how your organization is working by itself, but how it's working with everyone else in the ecosystem. So the amount of jobs you're creating, the impact to the environment. So how much of an impact are you creating as a whole is what it is we aim to deliver to organizations. So we talk about the customer journey map, where as we are approaching businesses, institutions, and estates that generate waste, we first start by mapping what it is their waste is, how it is they're generating, how many people there are in the organization that produce waste. And then we develop a system that works for them. It's not just plug and play. It's a lot of work where we need to make it as optimized as possible. And from here, we do this on a subscription where a 3-year plan to optimize and really understand how much impact you are making. And by connecting you as the producer in our ecosystem, we connect you with a collector who also comes and picks up from your organization and gives you the reports and data to understand how this is working. Then from here it goes on to recyclers who will convert this into new resources. And with all these metrics, you're able to measure your impact and you're able to showcase these best practices in events like the Africa Waste is Wealth Conference, the COP28, 27 is past, and any other exclusive events that we and our partners have access to. So to go on, I would like to talk about something that was mentioned earlier, which is the Kajiado case study in the next slide. So we did start in 2017, and since then we have worked with Kajiado County to develop a system that works for them. So this system is a material recovery facility situated at Kitengela dam site. Here we have engaged the local community where women, youth, and people with disabilities are able to sort and segregate and gain value from waste. So it's not just about creating that job. We are also connecting them with the county resources like the NHIF and NSSF so that they can be able to get access to adequate healthcare. We are giving them the personal protective equipment where they're able to keep safe when they are sorting and segregating this waste. We are also giving them access to financial literacy and improve digital skills so that they can be able to upskill, and even as they're doing this work, they're able to gain new skills and knowledge that they can be able to implement within their lives and the lives of their family. So there's a lot we have been doing. We have gained recognition even from the ambassadors of UN, correct me if I'm wrong, but His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince Haakon, and Her Royal Highness, Crown Princess of Sweden, if I'm not wrong. And yes, this is just to showcase our strength in terms of how much we have been having an impact. We have also received support from UNDP and Transform, and with you in this room, with you watching online, we are looking for support to implement new, even more innovative solutions. So over here, we do have some of our partners, and we are working on how to leverage technology like Internet of Things into our ecosystem so that we can be able to make this data more real-time, reduce inefficiencies, and make this really work for all the ecosystem players. So now, finally, I'd like to give you a call to action where we would like to collaborate and partner with you. We would like you to spread the word on what it is we are doing. We'd like you to make a commitment that as you come to work and collaborate with us, you will be able to make a positive impact and to understand how much impact you're making. So to do all of this, I can only ask you to engage with us so that we can help you achieve not just these SDGs, but any SDG that your organization wishes to achieve around creating impact and value through waste. So with that, I'd like to thank you. We do have our details where you can be able to contact us in Taka Nimali. And yes, so if there's any questions, I will hand it back to the moderator, and I will be happy to answer anything you would like to know more about what it is you're doing, what we've done so far. We have a booth out there, and I give it back to you, Alfred. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you very much. This is a young man who is managing this. He's a guy behind this. David is a data scientist and has a master's in engineering. So we're in safe hands with David doing all this and driving the Ecoloop. So without much ado, I will go straight into the panel so that we can save some time and listen to what they have for us today. Panelists, I'm very sorry. I know you've been, your neck must be tired by now. Should have left you on this side first, until now. I'm sorry about that, pardon. My first question will go to Safaricom, of course, and Airtel in the house. With us here in the house, there are technology firms or developers, and we have startups or enabler organizations, aggregators, recyclers, who would like to work with corporates, especially the mobile network operators. And every time they say whenever they come to you, they are a bit of an issue getting through their proposals. Just to hear from you, what are some of the value propositions that you are keen on, that this is what will make you tick to get into partnership and collaborations with these developers or startups or these aggregators or enabler organizations? We start with the Airtel or Safaricom? Safaricom.
Thank you, Alfred. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Owen Ombima. In charge of environmental management in Safaricom, looking at aspects of waste management, and also the lead in regards to digitization and automation. And that's a very powerful question. So what do we look at when we're looking at value proposition? Because one of our key pillars in regards to our planet pillar in our purpose strategy is helping society decarbonize, which factors in aspects of waste management. So what my team and my colleagues will look at basically is the ideation behind what you're bringing to the table. What is the concept? Is it something that we can create a shared value out of? And by shared value, we are talking about every player in that ecosystem will get a value, from the customer, whether it's the recycler, whether it's the mobile network operator. Everybody will be able to benefit from that value proposition. And if that meets the criteria, we'll continue with the journey, we'll do the necessary documentation, and basically we'll begin working together with the various propositions and see where we get from there.
Airtel?
Yeah, thank you, Alfred. My name is Michael Koech, and thank you, Owen. I think you've put it correctly. It's about the shared value. So in our case, I think the first criteria would be to look at the alignment of the idea into our sustainability strategy. So is it something that we can relate with? And so if it's technology, as this session is all about, I think it's a good starting point. It's well aligned. The other area is to And I get this a lot from you know, the commercial side of the business, whether it makes business sense. So is there a business case for it? And I think from the presentation that that has been done now from Ecolab, I think there's really a business case because we have the consumers here, we have the users. There's really something out there in the market that can make this thing work and reach out to as many people as possible. And then I think lastly is to look at the scalability. Is it something that can now, you know, go beyond the community, beyond the borders? Can it reach more and more people? And I think if it meets that criteria, then it's something that can be picked up. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So we'll just make this a conversation, easy flow. Back to you, Safaricom, or Owen. The bottom line, or the revenues, does it matter when these organizations come to you?
I will rephrase it as sustainability. Is the project, the product sustainable? Once we develop it together, will it be able to stand on its own? If that is the case, then we will take it up. So it always, sustainability is the key word we will look at.
Great, makes sense. Back to you, Michael. I know, we're not putting you in a corner. Airtel Africa has a presence in more than 14 countries across Africa. What does the landscape look like? Do you feel Africa is ready to embrace technology for circularity? MNOs across Africa, what is the feel around there? How does the landscape look like?
Yeah, thanks. I think for us, for the start, I mentioned about our sustainability strategy. So when you look at, and many speakers that have spoken before us, it's actually about sustainability. So we also have a strategy, and our strategy looks at 4 pillars. And one of them, the 4th one, is actually on environment. And in this, it's about climate, of course, which is a big thing, and then it's also about environmental stewardship. And this is where the topic of today is really relevant. One of the key objectives or goals that we've set ourselves is not to be part of the problem in Dandora, for example, if it's in Nairobi. So I was listening to, you know, the recyclers early when they were asked, will there be waste? And I think the answer was, in the short term and in the mid term, we'll still have waste. But for us, we've also set ourselves a target of zero waste to landfill. So I think that is the first area to start with. The other thing is for organizations to actually look at what are they doing internally. So whether it's about reducing waste generations within organizations, and how are you going to do it? Also looking at your products and coming up with products that use less materials, that are easy to recycle, and that takes, you know, less energy. And so, is Africa ready? I think Africa is ready. One of the key things is the technology is there, but it could be expensive or not accessible. We also have the issue of financing. So, I mean, we were given a presentation. There was a column of people called partners, and I think that's where probably finances comes to sort of support some of these initiatives as we go forward. And then lastly is actually the users, and you know, African population is growing. The problem of waste is there. So I think overall we are ready. There could be areas around the right technology, cost of that technology, and of course platforms, whether they exist to actually support that technology to grow. So for example, if you talk about the mobile application that Ecolab was talking about, so it could work. It could work better with people that use that have smartphones. But is the penetration smartphone penetration, is it okay? Maybe not. So do we have technologies that could use, you know, the symbol phones, feature phones like SMS? And I think that technology is there. So I think we are ready. There has to be some, you know, some enablers for us to really get the maximum benefits out of it. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So we are ready, but the enabling environment and partnership, financing and all that needs to all be brought together. Thomas, over to you. Michael has mentioned technologies. We have availability of technologies that we can use for in circularity or waste management. Just give us a feel some of these technologies that are out there, the application, and just a landscape of how does the skill gap look like, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship.
Yeah, so I think first of all, sitting alongside the giants of Safaricom, Airtel, and UNDP, I think it's worth introducing. So FITS is my company, and our role really is to bridge the gap between, like you say, entrepreneurs, thought leaders, the people who are the visionaries for solving this problem. And it's quite humbling to be in the room with people who've dedicated their lives and careers to fixing what is a crisis we've seen in David's video there. So what we do is bridge the idea that entrepreneurs have, or these thought leaders have, with the technology and capabilities that Airtel, Safaricom, Microsoft, AWS, all these guys build capabilities, they build platforms, but we need to bridge that gap to the outcomes and vision of the people who are dedicating their lives to this. So before I go into kind of the trends, it's worth looking at what is the objective of technology. What is technology solving or bringing to the table in this conversation? Because we're not just talking about technology, right? It's part of the solution. So the way we see it, there's three different things that technology can deliver. So the first one is it helps inject value into the chain, incentivize people. And I think the guy from Taka Solutions in the previous panel was talking about the carrot and how do we enable that. And policymakers enforcing things and the stick have their role. And I think technology has the role of bringing the carrot to the table. The second one is optimizing supply chain, and that's not new. That's not specific just to waste. We're talking about technology that is used in manufacturing, in logistics, and I think that the first speaker who was up here put it very, very clearly in terms of we need to bring the technology to optimize the way that we do things, just like we do in the way that we build cars or the way that we move groceries from one place to another. And then there's a third level of technology which is improving recycling, and that's not an area I can talk about. I'm not a chemical engineer, so I'll leave that to someone much smarter than I am. But if we look at those first two around injecting value and optimizing the supply chain, there's some key technologies or trends that are coming in. So IoT is the obvious one. So how do we connect our waste pickers? How do we collect the transportation, the collection sites with the consumer or the producer or the network of logistics? The next one is blockchain. I think it's been briefly mentioned a few times, and you talked about skills gaps. I think blockchain is a leap. It's going to be a leap, but it has a lot of value to add when you talk about data integrity, which has a lot to say around connecting what we're doing to finance. If we want to believe what we're saying, blockchain is going to be part of the answer for that. AI, I mean, it's hard to get away from AI these days. It's not new, it's not unique to waste, but that will help us become more efficient and innovate on that supply chain. And then the last one, which I wouldn't say is a trend, but is the foundation to all of this, and it's data. it's not fashionable. It's been around for a very, very long time. But when you look at the gentleman talking about investing or partnering, or UNDP, or some of the other partners we've worked with, Ecoloop, for example, in terms of like Unilever or Coca-Cola, if they're going to invest financially in the businesses that are trying to solve this problem, we have to be able to demonstrate outcomes. So data and data integrity is fundamental to solving that problem.
Cool. Just to follow up on that, what do you think is the role of the players in the technology space when it comes to shaping the consumer behavior? How can we work around that to help the consumers also embrace the uptake of technology when it comes to waste management?
Yeah, so I think a core part of FITS and what we do, and I talk about bridging that gap, our ethos is really about people. So technology, and you go back to those objectives I was talking about, optimizing a supply chain or incentivizing the value chain by allowing data to be turned into injection of cash or that sort of thing. I'm not talking about replacing people, I'm talking about enabling people. So we have to really think first and go through the process of who are we engaging. So we talk about the stakeholders, and I think David summed them up really clearly. So we've got consumers, we've got waste pickers, we've got corporates, we've got sustainability managers who've got demonstrations that they need to put out.
Yeah.
So we need to understand what's in it for them, what do they need out of this. Inclusivity is huge as well in terms of if you're going to build a platform, it has to cater for, I think we said 70% of people who have access to a mobile device. We have to think about not just ourselves, but who are all the people in this experience that when we're building a platform or a mobile app or whatever it might be, we need to think about those different personas.
Great. Thank you so much. I believe we are following. We'll be able to ask the questions. We'll open up for the questions. But I was saving last for the best, our only lady in the panel, Carol. You have a presence in 91 countries, or 91 places. And the UNDP, you are serving close to 115 countries. If you look at the landscape in the LMIC, low and middle income earning countries, the uptake of tech entrepreneurs, yeah, especially in the circularity space, what is your take on that, the innovation and the uptake around that place? And just give us a feel, what are some of the challenges you've encountered as you work in that space?
Right, thank you so much. So within the UNDP, I had the Accelerator Lab, which is an experiment in and of itself. And we are tasked with injecting a new way of doing development work by bringing in new ideas, bringing in new partners, and bringing in new data that would inform how we do development work. So essentially what the Accelerator Lab does is to look at what are the innovations that are happening within the country, but also across the globe. What can we learn about them, and how can we change how we do development work? So within the innovation space, we have actually done a mapping of the innovation ecosystem within the country, looking at exactly what you have asked, what is the uptake of technology, but beyond that, because innovation is, it's more than technology. There are innovations that are not tech-based. But we looked at the landscape, and so in as much as the country is prime for growth within the innovation space, we are really not innovating as fast as we should be, and there are some barriers. One of the barriers, you've mentioned them, the cost of technology, the cost of electricity, the cost of internet, financing, which are really some of the things that we know at the back of our head. It's very hard for an innovator to get capital, and so most of them depend on grants and government funding, which is not sustainable. But then there are also other building blocks that really just affect how the country is able to innovate at the rate at which other countries are doing so. One of them is research and development. We are lagging behind in the area of research and development, investing in new emerging technologies, new ideas. When it comes to even some of the patents that we see coming from the country, they are very low. We don't have, innovations that we are able to patent and say, okay, this is a Kenyan-grown innovation. We are also lagging behind a little when it comes to education, when it comes to capacity building around innovation culture, technology, and someone mentioned about the innovation culture at the early stage, at primary school and high school. So we are lagging behind when it comes to that. We are also lagging behind when it comes to industry adoption, and this just relates to how scalable some of our innovations are. Their ability to get into the market at scale. So a lot of the innovators, when they are coming up with ideas, the business model already impedes their ability to get into a wide market. So you find an innovation that can only, be multiplicated at a low level, and also the industry resistance to adopting new technologies. And I'll give you an example. So there are some innovators within the circular space that we've been able to interact with. There's one who's developing a smart bin, which uses satellite technology to power itself. It's a hardware solution. So being able to produce that bin is very expensive for an innovator. Being able to scale it across the country requires a lot of partnerships, requires a lot of funding, requires a lot of investment. So ability to scale that, ability for spaces and markets to be able to take that up is very challenging. We've also supported an innovator developing locally drone technologies. And one of the challenges, getting regulation, getting certification, just getting into the space where the market is able to invest and, take up this drone that is locally produced. So those are some of the challenges that we see within the space. They're not just unique to the circular space, but it is even more challenging within the circular space because I think there are misconceptions and also just lack of information around opportunities within the circular economy, that if we expose particularly young people, young innovators to this space, they can be able to innovate, they can be able to have more interest. Yeah, thank you.
Great. So we'll pause it there for now and come to the audience. I believe we have our questions ready. Before we come to the next round of questions, but then one question as we close. But then we'll open to the audience for your questions to the panelists so that we have a conversation with the panel. Any question from the panel? Okay, great. Somebody to help us with taking the notes on that.
Thank you so much. My name is Lydia Tsime. I'm from Uganda Manufacturers Association, and I'm glad to be here today. My question is regarding the technology around waste management. How have you been able to incentivize to make sure downstream that people have the facilities to use the app, for instance, or the phone, the data? Has there been any collaboration with the government or with the telecoms to ensure that data is more affordable, or does the application use some other, maybe USSD codes or something? I want to know how you've been able to achieve that. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you directing that question to one of the panelists here or David? David, there's a question for you. Yes?
Yeah, my name is, once again, my name is Lam from South Sudan. My question is direct to my sister from UNDP Special Accelerator app. In South Sudan, I think you guys, you're not doing enough in terms of some of the things that you just mentioned. And last year, 2022, I went to meet with your team in South Sudan, and I was presenting for them an idea called Wasaka app. Wasaka in Arabic mean west. That means Wasaka app. So they were like, okay, that is a good idea, it's a brilliant idea, please, we would like to meet you. The next time I got the email is come and attend the workshop. And I told them, people, let us be serious. You cannot give a capacity building to someone who knows what he wants to do. Me, I know where I'm going, I know what I'm presenting. What I just need you guys to do is to say, okay, Lam, we need you to provide for us 1, 2, 3. But from that time, the only email I'm getting come for capacity building. I went there the second day, I stopped going. Because I'm an entrepreneur, I need to make money. The only thing you cannot recycle is the time that is wasted. So I can be sitting, giving me a capacity building, yet I know where I'm going. Where do we start from there, my sister?
Thank you so much. Yes, there's another question here. And one at the back, if we have another mic.
Thank you. Once again, my name is Victor Bemela, and I'm from Tanzania. I'm working at the Coca-Cola Beverage Africa, Tanzania. I just want to dedicate my question to the telecom guys. I do understand you guys, you are the one who motivates people to use their, electronic devices, including the phones, even laptops or computers. My question is, I just want to hear a bit of your initiatives in aspect of e-waste management, because you guys, in one way or other, you are facilitating the existence of electronic devices. So your plan or any technological innovation that you have in resolving issues regarding e-waste. That's my question, I think.
They are distributors of e-waste, big distributors. There's another question in the middle, or at the back. At the back, there's another question. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. I want to address a question. I am Samuel Odwar. I'm working with ZTech University to drive research and innovation among the youths across climate crisis. So my question goes to David. I'm asking, how can technology be leveraged to improve waste collection and disposal processes, particularly in remote or undeserved areas? And how can this technology be adapted and scaled to suit the local context and address specific challenges? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Julia Seifert. I'm from a business consultancy called Net Zero from Tanzania. It's not a question to any of you particular, but I was just thinking about one of the key challenges, especially when you think about recycling, is when it comes to bottles, for example, is the bottle-to-bottle recycling. And a lot of those things are around traceability. So how do I trace my bottle? How do I trace whatever item I want to recycle? And I think our governments and our bureaus of standards do a very good job in ensuring that whatever comes into our countries, we have a QR code on it or we have a barcode in it, and we can trace it quite fairly well till it comes to the consumer. But what do you see as a potential of those codes that are applied, for example, by our TRAs, or I think here it's called KRA, by our TBS or KBS, as the product comes into our country, could we use the same barcodes or QR codes for traceability also when it comes to the waste management of those same products? Thank you.
Great. So your question goes to any particular panel? All of them. Fantastic. One more last question, and then we get back to the panelists. All right. We'll get there. David, sorry. Yeah. David, I think we'd rather start with you because you have quite a bunch of them. Just come up front, sorry, so that we can all get better audience for that.
Okay, so I had captured two questions that are focused to me. I think the other one was more to everyone, and I'll let the panelists answer. So the first one was about how to make the app accessible to the stakeholders, especially those who do not have access to smartphones. So I'll give a bit of background. When we started, we did start with the focus of developing this application to be as accessible as it can be, where we do have a USSD platform that can really be used to access in terms of requesting for waste to be collected and really to manage that value chain. However, we faced a challenge in the incentive, what makes people keep using this. So it's not just about the accessibility, it's about what actually, how do you make this sustainable in the long run? So now, the reason we developed Ecoloop is because now we are working backwards, looking at who is this important to. So businesses want to understand how much impact they have on the environment. The aggregators want to be able to manage and run their businesses as effectively so that they can be able to grow their business and gain more income. And you have development partners who do want to support, but they also need to understand how their resources are being used and how much of an impact they're actually making. So by working on it this way, the biggest thing that you can find is that all of them need data, and to harness this power of data, they need a very functional platform. So we have decided to focus on providing this platform that gives them as much access to the data that they need, so that they know what type of support, how much impact they're making, so that they can be able to leverage and make more informed decisions in the value chain. So now going backwards towards the people who are doing the business is where you do have the capacity building, and we have partnered with GSMA to be able to leverage digital skills training and utilities. So it's not just about giving them a smartphone and expecting them to use it. You need to train them because it's like a whole change in mindset. Why is it important to them? And it's also about if you are using this USSD system, will it be beneficial to you? So it becomes now a platform that is helping them to grow as an individual, grow as a business. And with the data, we are able to see across a whole landscape of people in the ecosystem who is growing at what rate, and we are able to determine how can we support, because we now have the data, knowing that if they're doing this way with very little knowledge on digital skills, we can give them like access to finance through our partners, and they're able to be more effective and grow at a much faster rate. So this is how it is that we do, this is how it is we work, so that we can be able to ensure that the different stakeholders are able to access, and not just access, but to utilize and be effective so that they can grow sustainably. So the next question was in terms of how the technology can be leveraged to improve waste collection, especially in rural areas, and how it can be scaled. I have mentioned about the importance of the data. So with the data, we are really able to understand the landscape. So because each area, each county, each community is different. And it's less about just giving them something that fits all of them, but it's really about understanding what are the trends, how are the people behaving, what is the culture around it. So we tend to work with the local communities themselves instead of just coming in and tell them this is how it's supposed to be done. Actually, even in some of our trainings, we find one of the people who is well connected with them, and we train them in English, and they can train them in their mother tongue or in their local dialect. So it's trying to make it as accessible as possible, so that by the time, and you see there is that aspect of capacity building, so that when they now start getting to use the technology, they're able to sustainably grow and have a positive impact towards the environment and their families and communities. So by employing that model, it becomes something that adapts when you go to different areas, because it's not just, it becomes like a working model that can be implemented in different regions. So going even beyond Kenya, going to East Africa, is the whole process of understanding the market, the landscape, and then working to ensure that we are generating the most value as we can towards each of the stakeholders that I had mentioned in my presentation. So I hope those are the answers to your question.
Thank you, David. Thank you so much. Just as you say, David is here. If for any conversations, we can see him. You may attend, as you were saying. Carol, over to you. Liam here is worried that there's too much workshop.
All right.
At what point do you get to the real thing? Yeah? Here's the money, here's technical assistance, collaboration, and partnership. Please help Liam to understand this.
All right. I'm very sorry that the workshop was not useful for you. Well, one thing that is maybe a point of clarification is that UNDP is not a financing agency. So we actually, for the lab, in as much as we invest in prototypes, in ideas, in solutions, one of the things that we are careful not to do is to replace the financing architecture that should be available to innovators. But at the same time, we want to learn, we want to grow the innovators, we want to grow the ecosystem. So we're actually very proud that in Kenya, we were actually one of the partners of EcoLoop and helped them in the early stages of the design and the development of this application. In Sudan, I think one of the things would be important to understand is what are their priorities and what is it they're looking to impact. For us, we are looking to impact on jobs and to impact on opening opportunities within the circular economy, and that is why we're able to draw that connection and be able to invest in that. But ideally, what we are trying to do within the development space is to generate data and to generate findings, to harness partnerships, to bring people together, to be an interconnector. And so financing isn't really one of our biggest, I think, areas of work. The World Bank, I think, would be better suited for that, or even the private sector.
Okay, thank you. Liam, I believe that answers your question, but it seems like you're not satisfied.
Yeah, so it's okay. But where I really don't get the proper understanding of UNDP in South Sudan is that sometimes they suggest what are the solutions to the problems, yet they really don't know the problem itself. So when they start doing that workshops and all of this, they were trying to bring in a lot of things in which they assume this is technology. But to me, I believe that any technology that is not working in the society is not technology. We need to buy what is working, not what is not working. So if they're not there to help in terms of financing those projects, then why are you asking for ideas in first place?
So
okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Liam. I'll come to you, Ma'am. Just 1 minute. Let me go to the telcos. E-Waste, Owen.
Thank you, Alfred. So I think the question was around how we manage e-waste. So in Safaricom, we will normally look at it. I like to use an analogy of a football team, where you have an offensive and a defensive, and in the middle you have a midfield. And in the offensive, you're trying to transform lives. But for everything that you try to do, there is always a negative sometimes. And that is where probably the e-waste is. And that's where the middle part comes in, the midfield. And then that is where you're looking at technology and processes. So what have we done in order to curb, as much as we are trying to provide technological solution, how do we curb this e-waste that will be as a result of that? So we have two key initiatives. We have an e-waste take-back system, where we have availed all our retail shops, 61 of our retail shops across the country, and they have e-waste bins. And we normally, on international days and every so often, urge the public to take any e-waste to our shops and we'll collect it for them. So that is normally what we have advocated for. And if you are anywhere around a shop and you're able to put your e-waste into the bin, into the shop, normally the shop managers will call Safaricom my team, and then we'll be able to come. We have our partner called Waste Center, who will be able to come and collect that e-waste. The other program that we have started is a trade-in program. This is specifically for phones. So last year we started with 11 shops in Nairobi, where we are working with two partners, Badili, Africa, and Calcare, and you are allowed to take back a phone to the shop, and they will assess that phone. And based on its value, they will give you points which you can spend on any item in that shop. So this is meant to encourage people to take back the phones. And what the recycler does in this case is they will take back the phone, they will refurbish it, and they will put it back into the ecosystem. And the phones which are dead, they will take the phones, they will extract the spare parts, and they will use them in the refurbishment of other phones. So that we expect that by the end of the year, we will have collected as much phones as possible as we continue to rally the public to continue bringing back their general e-waste and also participate in the trading programs. We are also looking this year to continue expanding and to avail the trading program across the country.
Fantastic. And I want to believe that for e-waste management programs, you also look at the network e-waste as well, and you're managing that as well.
Yes, yes, yes. So for the network waste, we do not throw it away because, as you know, it is quite valuable and various partners normally request for it. So normally we will offer a bidding for the e-waste, and whoever is successful will normally get that network waste, and they will go and use it for other purposes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Sorry, just stay on. And I believe Michael will also respond to the same. Do you have interest in the other sectors' e-waste as well? E-waste generated in other sectors? Sorry, let's pass it to Michael as you... Yeah. We'll be back to you.
Thank you, Alfred. Yeah, so Victor, I think, of course, just like plastics, and I know you were really on that seat that time. E-waste is also the fastest growing stream of waste, and I think it's more hazardous because of the components that it has. So if it gets into water or the food chain, it becomes a bigger problem. So what we have is to ensure first that we reduce the amount of e-waste that we generate. So in all our markets, we ensure that the equipment that we purchase would last for long, so that it doesn't get into the end of life as quick as that fast. We also have programs around awareness, both internally for our employees, because they have our biggest ambassadors, just to talk about what e-waste is, why it is important to make sure that it's handled in a proper manner. As in terms of when it gets into the end of life, and I think network equipment is the biggest in this case. We have collaboration and partnership with e-waste recyclers. One of them, as Owen has said, was seated here in the earlier panel. So we work with them in the recycling of e-waste in Kenya. I think in Tanzania we have, is it Cheramba or Chalamba? One of those, but is one of the biggest waste recyclers generally, and he handles e-waste as well as part of their portfolio. But I think overall, the key thing here is also about getting support from government, especially in terms of regulations and policies around e-waste. In Kenya, there's already regulations on EPR, extended producer responsibility, where we are supposed to form this organization that sorts of takes care of different categories of waste, and e-waste and batteries is in the same category, and I think there is a huge process that is going on now, so that it doesn't become one person's or one organization's problem. It actually becomes an industry problem, and so an industry solution. One last thing we do is also with our suppliers. So we have certain standards set for our suppliers, and even in the contracts it's included, where they can be able to take back their equipment once it gets into the end of life. Then we have that as part of the contracts, so that we ensure that that extended producer responsibility actually extends to the people, the vendors whom we source the equipment from. Thank you.
Michael, you touched on the cross-sector e-waste. Did you touch on the cross-sector e-waste initiatives, something you have around there?
Yeah, so I think the bigger problem is what we generate. But in terms of technology, of course, as we said earlier, we are open to collaboration, where we know we have the leverage, and also where we know we can sort of have partners that we can work, communally or in common with the different organizations. Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, Michael. Sorry, Owen. I was asking the same question because I've seen you do a lot of that, working with government, training institutions to collect e-waste from learning institutions, from government offices, and I would like to appreciate you and Safaricom for the good work you're doing around there across sector e-waste as well. Not just what you generate, but also looking at other sectors as well. Tom, there's one question that lacks honor, and we'll give it to you. And this most likely is our last question.
From Net Zero, correct?
Yes, exactly, from Net Zero.
So about traceability of plastics or other products in the value chain. So I think this, from a technology perspective, it aligns neatly to blockchain and the blockchain technology, which is about being able to trace something with integrity from source to finish. And I think one of the kind of best examples of this that I can see for anyone who's interested and wants to go and have a look at blockchain in use is waste to where, very close to our slogan here. Waste to where is a company that takes recyclables and turns them into fashion and textiles. And what they do in that is they combine digital records with physical QR codes on the boxes and on the materials as they go through the chain. And that was really important because they create something which is unbreakable, and as soon as the QR code is manufactured and if it's tampered with or broken, the value chain is broken. We know that they're potentially tampered with, right? And waste aware, if you scan that QR code and it comes on the label of the clothing that you buy from this company, you can actually see pictures of everything that came together to build that in its various stages. So a plastic bottle entering into a plastics bank, and then a recycling process and all that sort of thing. So going back to the original point of why can't we use the QR codes that are already on there, there's got to be a uniqueness about this code. It has to tie specifically to a specific digital record. If we were to recapture them into the blockchain, it wouldn't work. So that's kind of that perspective. But if I may, while I've just got the microphone, just going back to the question from the Uganda manufacturers on incentivizing.
Yeah.
There's another great story from Plastic Bank. So this is a plastic bank that's set up a blockchain, so the same technology, and they were founded in Canada, but they generate $60 million of revenue a year, and 20% of that revenue comes from the recycling resale. 80% of that revenue comes from carbon credits. So what they do is they get waste pickers to pick up the waste and put it into a plastic bank, and they're given tokens from mobile network operators, and they're in Egypt, Brazil, Colombia, Philippines. And they sell it on to recyclers, but because their data is so good and the integrity is there, they're able to sell those carbon credits to offset the production. From I'm sat in the hot seat of Coca-Cola, they can go to Coca-Cola and trade those credits for the bad things that they're doing. or allegedly potentially responsible for. So they can offset their impact by buying these credits, which can then incentivize people to bring things to the plastic banks. So that's a way of injecting value into that chain.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of this session. The conversation still goes on. And just as we said, we can always reach out to our panelists. They're still around with us to ask the questions. I know Joseph Wanyonyi, there's a question to Safaricom. You can have a discussion or a chat with him on the sites. I'll just give you 1 minute each or less than a minute each to give us your closing remarks, starting from Owen.
Thank you. So, for me, technology has always been a defining factor. From early on, I normally like to tell people the earliest interaction I had with technology and e-waste was when I was doing my project in school, where I looked at geographical information system and how it can be used to understand illegally dumped or illegal dump sites. So the possibilities for technology are limitless. Like my colleague has mentioned, artificial intelligence, IoT, they are all in the basket. And all we need to do is start working together, synergize, partner, and we'll come up with the solutions to all these challenges we are facing, especially the one that was mentioned earlier about zero waste. I believe technology will enable us to solve and attain zero waste. Thank you.
Thank you, Owen. Yes, Tom?
I think you may have read my notes, but I was going to say work together as well. So I think, as I said at the very beginning, our role in this is to bridge that gap between the people who are dedicating their lives to solving this problem and the people who are building impressive, amazing capabilities and platforms. So work together and leverage those partnerships would be kind of my one message. We're here to do that. But my kind of final thing is really a thank you on behalf of my 2-year-old son, who probably couldn't articulate himself, but he one day will thank everyone who's attended this and stayed here right through to the end, because you care and you're trying to do something about this. And when he's 18 or 20 and he's moving into to work and life and raising his own family, he'll be grateful for the time that you guys have spent here. So thank you.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Yes, Michael, over to you.
Yeah, thanks. I think you also read my notes. I think for me, again, it's about collaboration. I know all of us in this room have different, we are specialized in different things. And so the things that you do best, I think we can only collaborate so that we make them happen. The other thing is, of course, to thank the organizers. I think this is one of the most diverse, participants that I've seen. Someone was mentioning earlier that it used to be, the usual people and the usual stories. I think this is more diverse than any other that I've seen. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Finally, Caro. And Caro, I know you'll have a side chat with Liam after this, because we didn't finish that conversation. So let's have your final remark.
Thank you so much. When we, earlier on, we were talking about climate change and how the effects of climate change affect the most vulnerable in the society. And when we look at even, recycling, when we look at waste collection and waste management, we see that the lower income populations recycle less than the high income populations. And when you look across the conversations around waste management, recycling, we tend to exclude the communities that are impacted the most. So even with the technology, we actually do end up excluding a lot of the people who are impacted by the waste, by the crisis of the waste. So we need to find out more ways in which we can have more of these communities within the room, and ways in which we can expand our scope of, the use of technology, making it affordable, accessible, and also looking at non-tech based, even though this panel is looking at technology, non-tech based innovations and solutions, so that we can address this waste crisis together. And last point is we need to invest in innovation. We need to invest in ideas. And Liam's challenge is actually very pertinent in that, many innovators lack access to financing because it is very risky for banks, for private sector, for many venture capitalists to invest in this early stage ideas. So we need to find a way in which we can mobilize ourselves as Kenyans or as East Africans or as communities to have a pool of funds that we can be able to support these solutions and these innovations that are coming up that are so critical, but they will not find scale. They'll not be able to be scaled unless somebody invests in them. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, join me. We've come to the end of this session. Join me in thanking our wonderful panelists for this session. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Also, join me in thanking the audience for staying all this while to the very end. Thank you. Thank you very much. You are allowed to exit the stage. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much, Asiko. Thank you, panelists, for sharing your thoughts. This brings us to the end of proceedings for today. Thank you for sitting through the session. It must have been tedious, but also very useful. And the whole point is to try and have some of these difficult conversations in the room. Great. Just quick things to note. Remember your badge, okay? If you feel like you might leave it at home tomorrow, or you lose it, or the ladies, you'll change bags, you are free to leave it at the registration and you'll pick it in the morning, okay? And here's the thing, since we're talking about recycling and reuse, at the end of the conference on Thursday, we'll all return them, okay? And then we can figure a way of recycling them. But I'm saying, since we won't issue you with any new ones, we're happy if you want to leave them there and you'll pick them tomorrow. But still, please remember to carry tomorrow because it will make it easier when you're moving across the building and getting service, okay? Great. They will have coffee served right at the lobby area, but before you access coffee, I'll encourage all of us to visit the exhibition stands. There is some fantastic work that has been displayed there. Please go connect with the people that are doing those things, get the ideas, and hopefully build opportunities to partner. Otherwise, thank you so much. See you tomorrow at 9 o'clock.